mentioned, I'm the founder of Hayes. I'm 20, and at the moment, I am the CEO of a company called Hayes Visual. We build 2D and 3D product configurators. It's a SaaS application that is on the Shopify App Store, as well as the WooCommerce App Store, and we're also integrating with Etsy as we speak. It helps merchants sell complex and customizable products. And a bit of backstory about why I decided to do this and how we got to this. So in my first year of university, I started a company called Hayes Cards. We sold customizable metal and credit cards. We realized that why is the product we use most so boring and plastic? Seems a bit strange now looking back at it. So in my university dorm room, we we bought these laser engravers, and we realized that if we took the chip out of a plastic card, we could put it into a metal card, kind of like this. I don't know if you can see it, card here. And then we set up a website, and within 6 months, we generated £125,000 in gross revenue. I was 18. My lecture attendance went down to 36%. It was not looking good. I was the first person in my family to go to university, and my parents had high hopes. And long story short, I applied to Dragon's Den in my university library, and to be quite frank, it was the worst application form you've ever seen in your life. I've been watching the show since I was, God, I don't know, super young. And I kind of just thought, willy-nilly, just apply. Why not? We'll see what happens. And at the time, I was kind of using, I had an awful website, and my only bit of traffic and my only skill was kind of TikTok and social media. We used no ad spend. We're all organic. I didn't have an accountant. Everything was up in the air, and looking back, we were lucky to get that far. So long story short, we applied to Dragon's Den. It was, like I mentioned, it was an awful application. We went, and then suddenly I got an email back saying they'd like to interview me. We went on 4 or 5 interviews, months and months and months of going back and forward. And the lady said to me, I know her name off by heart, Stephanie. That's how much I spoke to her in that 4 months of application. Every single meeting, she'd be like, if you don't hear back by the end of a certain date, you're not in. And I was like, right, I'm not going to get in. And then one day I was in Barcelona, and they said, right, you need to be in Manchester. You'll be pitching in 2 weeks' time. So I kind of rolled up to the studio, and in Manchester, and I pitched at all 5 dragons for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. First ever time pitching, never pitched for investment in my whole life, never even probably spoke to an investor. Scurry round to find an accountant to create some accounts for me, so that I could get through the due diligence. We pitched to all 5. We received investment from 3 of them: Stephen Bartlett, Peter Jones, and Tuka. I went to the wall twice. I didn't think I was going to get investment, so I didn't plan who I would take if anyone offered. That shows how my mindset was back then. Anyway, after going to the wall twice, I decided to take Stephen Bartlett's offer. So we took on Stephen Bartlett's investment, and then the show aired in February 2023. We had a pretty crazy response. Oh yeah, so missed out a key part there. When I received the investment, I went back to my careers advisor and said at university, and was like, look, I've received investment. Oh no, look, I'm going on Dragon's Den. What shall I do? And he said, university will always be here, your business might not. So I was like, right, I'll see you later then. So I dropped out of university, moved back home to Manchester, and then moved into a VC's office, one of Steve's friends. And kind of that's how it started. And I became full-time on the business just before my 19th birthday. So investment, I then had to realize all the ins and outs of tech, designing a website, product, marketing, paid. And that's when obviously I came and signed up to startup. I'm sure Gary, Gareth, and Ollie will remember when I first came when I was 18. I had absolutely no clue what I was doing, and I jumped on the call every Wednesday. And just like I've always said, it was a huge help to kind of talk and discuss, especially in an industry and a world where you feel so young. When you're 18, 19, when someone's 20 or 25, it feels like it's a long way off. and it, really helped build my confidence in terms of speaking, and yeah, I guess being approachable, and also just like raw confidence is the biggest thing. I think that's one thing I really lacked. And kind of think big. I didn't really think too big. I didn't think about raising big amounts of investment Series A. I kind of just did it for a bit of a hobby, really. Anyway, that took a drastic turn when the episode aired in February 2023, and we had huge amounts of traffic on the website. Just absolute ridiculous amounts. Our TikTok blew up even more. We had a lot of people coming from LinkedIn. It was pretty crazy. We almost grew too fast, even though we had solutions in place to be able to handle those orders. It was just absolutely ridiculous. Our Shopify apps we installed couldn't handle the orders. So yeah, absolutely crazy. And the biggest app we realized, our cards were fully customizable. Customers could upload images. One thing we realized is people were more likely to buy something that they could configure or customize, and all our cards were made to order. And we ran at about a 90% margin. So each card probably cost £8, maybe £8.50 to make. And at the time we were selling them for kind of 85 quid a card, sometimes even more, which was even cheaper than some of the competitors in America, really. And looking back at it, we should have expanded over there a little bit more. Anyway, so long story short, the episode aired, and we found that all the Shopify apps we used to be able to provide that customization interface were, number one, doing huge amounts of revenue for themselves, but they were awful and incredibly expensive. So when an exit opportunity arose when I was partway through my 19th year, we jumped on it. I really realized that through starting to startup, and also the people I'd met around me, that I wanted to do more than just sell and manufacture metal cards. So I thought, why not? What should we do now? And I decided I wanted to fix the problem that we had. So the biggest problem we had was the Shopify apps that we were using couldn't facilitate what we wanted to do. And I'd spoke to a lot of Shopify business owners, and also Wix business owners and Etsy founders that sold customizable or configurable products, and the software on the market just wasn't good, but it was the only option. It was a bit of a monopoly. So we raised 250,000 start off with in just before my 20th birthday. As you can tell, I kind of do timelines off when my birthdays are. For my 20th birthday, it was the first time where I'd raised investment without having kind of a full legal advisory team, I guess. And I don't know if Sam Simpson's in this call, but he'll know the amount of WhatsApp messages I sent to him through that time, and also Gary through that time period, which was an absolute learning curve. I didn't even really know what SIS and EIS was 6 months prior. So yeah, we approached investors via LinkedIn. Luckily, we were lucky to get a lead in quite early on. And luckily, through the connections I made from my previous company, and hopefully the credibility that I had shown, that really helped us. We went to a few investor dinners, a lot of meetings, a lot of pitching, and really trying to show the problem we were solving. Bear in mind, at this time, we didn't even have a product for investors to look at. We only had kind of Figma mock-ups. All we had was the state. I knew the problem we were solving inside and out, and we had the developers to do that. Anyway, we turned down. We only wanted to raise 250. We turned down 150,000 from some well-known, I won't say names, SAS funds, and also other angel investors. We capped it at 250, though I was very tempted to raise more. But I think one of the biggest mistakes now being around lots of tech founders is when people hand you money, they just seem to kind of take it with open arms, with not thinking that what would I actually do this money? Equity's one of the most powerful things, and at the start, I think it can be very easy to just kind of accept the bit of money you're given, the bit of capital you're being offered. So we capped 250, and we started growing the team. We hired developers, working with our investors. And the way I wanted to raise investment was, I didn't want really big VCs. I just kind of wanted a group of solid angel investors that were in the trenches with me, that I could drop a WhatsApp to and they would reply, and it wouldn't be a month scheduled meeting. It could just be we could just jump on a call, and luckily we found those group of people. So yeah, we're very careful when raising investment. And then now we're set to raise. We've got a buzzing beta list. We're set to launch on the Shopify App Store in February if our application gets received. But yeah, so far, great feedback on our beta list. We've got some really good clients lined up that we've been working with. We're in talks with Alibaba.com so that when you buy a product, before you purchase a product, you can kind of mock it up in our configurator. And then the factory will receive the bill of materials and also what we call print ready files. We have created a feature where when you upload an image on Moonpig or Vistaprint, you'd normally upload in like a PNG or a JPEG. And a lot of times, especially with laser engravers or some printing machines, they need to be done in an SVJ file. And that, from my experience, that time where you have to download a PNG file and then engrave it onto a laser machine, you have to have a designer in between, and the software that we developed converts it straight to an SVJ, so it kind of cuts out that middle time, and also saves costs, and it makes it more seamless, right? So yeah, we've got a buzzing beta list. We're having to decline people to join the list because otherwise it's not a beta list, everyone just joins. And yeah, we're learning along the way, really. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy journey. I used my student loan to buy the laser engraver, which, looking back at it, was an interesting choice. And yeah, that's kind of been my journey so far. I made 2 angel investments along the way. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience as well, because I also felt that gave me an upper hand, because I was thinking with an angel investor's mindset when raising investment. All about the founder, to be honest with you. And I have made a conscious effort when I've raised investment to have a kind of almost a bit of a personal relationship with that angel investor and kind of keep those connections pretty tight. So we provide kind of a bi-weekly investor report. Yes, it's very short, but it keeps the investor, they feel valued, and they also feel like they're incredibly up to date. And also, if there's any issues we may have, or any contacts we may need, they're easy to kind of jump on and ask. Yeah, that's kind of where we're up to now. And yeah, I don't know if there's any kind of questions or anything specific you'd want me to talk about, Ollie.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Myles. Any questions for Myles this morning? Tom.
Hey, Myles. Yeah, this is really, really interesting, and I think, unsurprisingly, I think you're kind of on the money with this, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about the future of brand, and I think we all know that the future of brand is in community, which is not a new idea, but we've never really actually done it. But now the tools are becoming available to do community in a way it's never been done before, which I think is largely going to be powered by 2 things. One is genuine co-creation, which obviously what you're doing speaks to very closely. The second part of it, which actually came up on our stand-up call last night, is about revenue sharing, and actually looking at brands and their customers and ownership models and a revolution in all that side of things as well. Have you had any thoughts about that side of it?
Yeah, look, in a world now where we can connect and talk with anyone we really want, if they want to talk to us, I think it's becoming incredibly prevalent. We've seen a lot of brands, especially in the software space. Well, I have, in the Shopify app space, in the Shopify marketplace, where integrating with another software solution can be a make or break. Klaviyo is a great example with that. They've raised $350 million in the last few years, and they're just a basic Shopify app. Though there is incredible tech around it, the main way they've grown is by co-creating with other Shopify partners and agencies and integrating their tech with other Shopify apps, so that it's almost a bit of an ecosystem. And obviously those apps and tech they're integrating with aren't direct competitors. And 100% you get to share those communities. One thing that we've seen a lot as well with Etsy is that Shopify, especially with a lot of the Shopify stores, they will have LinkedIn profiles, and it's a great way to market. Where Etsy is a completely different market. You know, prior to this, I looked at Etsy and thought it's something mums do on the side to sell their handcrafted items. But to be quite frank, you look at the numbers, it's absolutely outrageous, the revenue that's going through that platform. It's just we, as more corporately polished individuals, don't see that as a market, when really these Facebook groups with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Etsy sellers all talking about their problems every day, and it's how you capitalize on that. And we're seeing more businesses create Facebook groups and spaces for especially Etsy software seller tools, creating Facebook groups where they provide free advice and knowledge, and then it's almost a bit of a community, and then they can sell within that community. So we've seen huge growth in that, and that's one thing we're really focusing on, is making sure we have those spaces where different communities for our different integrations can sit and talk and discuss, and they're kind of under our roof. But yeah, partnerships as well, we've seen it's a key thing at the moment, especially in the software space. And
I like that idea.
We're investing in a lot.
Yeah, it's that under our roof idea, isn't it?
But not feeling that they're being fully sold to all the time, but you've got that community under your roof. You can ask for their feedback, their knowledge on future updates. They're almost kind of a nicer customer is probably a better way to say that. And I think everyone should be kind of harnessing that in their industry or their sector.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
No worries.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations, well done. It's an amazing journey that you've been on, and thank you very much for that talk. It's really insightful to hear all the different sides of things, like you said, as an investor and receiving investment. Obviously, I'm a CX consultant. My business, for those that don't know, is a customer experience consultancy company. I help businesses with their CX. So obviously, it's a topic that's really passionate to me. And as businesses start off, obviously, you've got the product, you can kind of do the marketing. And I'm just interested to hear your journey and how you kind of serviced your customers, how you helped resolve any issues that they may have had, lost deliveries, lost orders, failed transactions. I'm guessing you probably got a bit of a team now and some infrastructure in place, but obviously to start with, it was just yourself. So how did you kind of firstly, two questions. So firstly, how did you manage that yourself at the beginning? I'm just interested to hear. And secondly, what were the biggest challenges around CX you had at the beginning?
Yeah, very, very great question. Yeah, so when we first started, we were very lucky. We had a TikTok account that, at the time, the TikTok algorithm was incredibly generous. We would post videos, and they would, a lot of the time, quite organically, they would kind of do really, really, really well. Unfortunately, it's not quite like that anymore. But we were quite lucky then, where we could curate how we could predict when the traffic would come to our site, and we could prepare for those times. And at that time, we didn't have systems in place. Stupidly, I would kind of rock up to Royal Mail, every drop off at Royal Mail with like a bag of cards. There was no kind of systems in place. I don't even know if we had at the start, we didn't even have a label printer. We used a label printer in our local, I think it was a Nita local, and you could print the labels there and then. And now looking back at it, we had no systems in place at all. And that is just so ridiculous. And then when we started to scale really quick, we had rocky foundations, meaning we had never had systems in place. And then suddenly we had to create systems overnight to be able to handle the amount of orders. It was awful. And I think, yes, you can do it. You can create those systems quite quick, but learning those systems and getting used to a routine of great foundations, and that's how we start, will serve, absolute dividends. Because when we grew so fast, the systems were in place, but they were incredibly rocky. You know, we struggled to adapt to routine. We were kind of a crack on and let's do it mentality, which I think is needed, but there needs to be some sort of structure. It was just, looking back at it, I've got anxiety when thinking about it. It is ridiculous. And for a long time, we kept our team really tight, and we still do that now, where I think a tight efficient team is great. But when we went on Dragon's Den, I think 7 million people watched it live. I think there was like 7.5 million on Facebook as well, or 4.5, whatever it was, 5.5. It was ridiculous. And though we're on Shopify, so the site was fairly okay, there's nothing you can do in terms to process that, especially when it's such a manual product. It's not like we've got a warehouse with tens of thousands of pre-made cards.
Yeah, each card
is manufactured, and we had a lot of lost orders, and there has to be an element of like, right, you are going to lose some things, are going to go wrong, and you have to kind of write those off. It's a mentality we had. But yeah, we use really good inventory tracking software. It's probably a good one. And the worst thing about our business is that it was made to order. That was the worst thing by far. I could only imagine of having tens of thousands of a product that was pre-ready, and if I were to do it again, I would have a warehouse or a 3PL, so a third-party logistics center, and ship them straight from there instead of trying to do it all yourself. It would be potentially slightly more expensive, and it would be more expensive to go to a 3PL, but the efficiency and the being able to so streamline and being able to offer lots of different delivery solutions is way more is way worth the sacrifice. I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of rambled on a little bit.
No, it does. Yeah, because I was thinking that was my point. Is like obviously once the show aired, then you must have had an influx of orders, and obviously managing that constant high-end customer service level to service the 7 million or whatever customers that had seen your product versus the 200 that had seen your product initially, and having to uphold that same level of service. And did you track? I'm guessing you tracked like your service scores and tracked your satisfaction, and was there any kind of 100%. Scary moments that you just like, oh shit, everybody's really annoyed with us, or was it kind of, did you manage to keep your head above water?
We stopped orders 2 days after the show. We paused orders, 2 days after the show for our cards, because our the way our process worked, our delivery provider, so we received the cards and we received packages to us and returns to us, and our delivery provider just couldn't handle it where we were. So it's not like we were in the city centre of Manchester, we were slightly further out. And at that point, we just kind of had to be honest with our customers. At the time, I think we had 10,000 people signed up to our mailing list within the first 2 days on our site, and it got them 10% off or whatever. And it was just, we had to be honest and straight with our customers and saying, this is what the problem that we're facing. We've never been in a situation like this. You couldn't even recreate it, even no matter how much you spent on ads, you just couldn't recreate the situation we were in. And then we had to manage socials. I think the hardest thing was making sure we kept a level playing field. Day to day, you have to do X, Y, and Z to keep the business above water, and then with the resources you have, and then add on the publicity going absolutely outrageous. I mean, you start losing a bit of balance, and that's one thing we realized. Our Instagram kind of drops off a little bit in terms of we weren't posting as frequent, or we weren't replying to DMs. And when we went back to DMs, it was just absolutely ruined. I mean, you couldn't even touch them because there was just so many. And then you've got to whistle through the DMs that are they customer based, or are they just saying well done on Dragon's Den? And then who do you bring? Then it's like, it's a trained product. You can't just ask anyone to jump on a laser engraver and try and figure out how to use it. You have to train them. And then it took us ages to train. And then we couldn't find laser engravers that were in the UK, and it was just all those problems that we had to try and fix, and also absorb the impact. There's some points where, and we did grow too fast, in my personal opinion. I think we grew too fast. We didn't have the expertise, the team, and also it was a product that hadn't been done before. Really, there was no one to kind of base our processes off. We were having to create them, and it's not like we had like advisors to come in and consultants to come and tell us how to create the processes. So yeah, I think our prep should have spent so much more time on prep. We were just like, crack on, give us all the sales we need, but really it screwed us. We didn't even touch paid ads after that because it was just, we didn't need to. And to be honest, I didn't want any more orders. I was completely done. And one more thing to add as well, we had our live chat on all our phones, and it was just ridiculous. It wasn't even worth doing the live chat because you'd spend so long with each customer that you'd have loads waiting, and by the time we get to them, they would have just left. So that customer side, we should have turned off live chat. We should have had it automated. I don't even know if there was an AI solution then, but we should have had it automated where they could have put in their email and we would have gotten back to them later. But even then, our emails were absolutely ruined. So it was all, to be honest, too fast. We couldn't control it. And I would say we should have had more plans in place.
Yeah, well, congratulations and well done. And
thanks very much.
Yeah, you're very, very hats off to you. Yeah, amazing. If ever you get in that situation again, just give me a shout. I can help you with it. But yeah, no, absolutely incredible journey you've been on. So yeah, huge respect to you for that. And yeah, well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stan. Great question. Neil.
Yeah, hi, Myles. And thanks for the talk. The thing that sparked my attention, or one of the things that sparked my attention, that was you talking about the Etsy market and the whole kind of creativity and individuality element of business success nowadays. In your experience, how much are you seeing the trend of, I guess, individual crafts, individual creativity becoming something that is more and more important? Just to add, one of the reasons I ask is that my wife, who's an art teacher and previous interior designer, has been spending years becoming a surface pattern designer, or learning the skills of that, and been exposed to this Etsy, Spoonflower kind of craft market, all of these wonderful forums that are going on trying to help creatives start businesses. So yeah, I've had a little insight into that world, but not too much. I will also, just for a little bit of happiness, is to put her Instagram post on there, because she needs some love, and she's wanting to share some of the designs. And if I was to have an ambition this year, is to help her actually get some work through that. Like many teachers, she's frightened of stepping out of that world, and
of course.
There's also the fact that her brother's got over 100,000 followers on Instagram now, so there's a little bit of sibling rivalry. But anyway, thank you. Please, back to the creativity question, if you could.
Yeah. First off, obviously that's something we're seeing. We spent a lot of time with Etsy sellers, especially in the US. There's a big lot of designers or crafters or kind of every kind of design and creative niche you can think of creating products. Now, one thing we have seen is, which though it is part of our business model that I'm not a huge fan of, is companies like Printful and Printify and these kind of print on demand providers, where you can, Etsy for me, it's you create the products at home and you can sell them online, and it's a way where you don't need to have a Shopify store and accountants or whatever. It kind of just does it all for you. You don't need advertisers, sellers, SEO. It kind of just, you put the product out there in the listing and you can sell your handcrafted items. Now, unfortunately, it's taking a bit of a turn, and that's why it's seen huge amounts of revenue in the last few years. There's companies like Printful and print on demand providers where sellers can upload designs off the internet or whatever onto Printful and almost drop ship the products from Printful and sell it on Etsy, and it's automated. Now, I think that really takes the creativity and kind of like the homemade side out of it, and it's how you compete against people like that is the best way. And I think homemade goods is the best way to do that. And one thing we've been asked to do is integrate with Printful, so that when you go and design a customized product on Etsy, it integrates via APIs, and it sends the product straight to Printful. And we've seen that customers are more likely to purchase if the product is either handmade or it's custom to them. And we've seen that via like laser engraving or embroidery or screen printing. And I think that's one of the biggest trends we're seeing at the moment, is kind of handcrafted, designed or customized to the consumer, or the consumer gets a say in how the product is made, whether it's color, texture, that kind of thing. Now, though, like you said, there are other sites out there that I think could be easy, just because Etsy is becoming so crowded at the moment, and it's almost a bit of a race to the bottom, which is ridiculous, right? Because it's based upon creativity, but with these providers like Printful, they can make the product for so cheap that they're not going to be able to. Let's say your wife spends a few hours on a design. Let's just say that she can't compete against Printful, who are shipping out 10,000 customized mugs a day or 10,000 embroidered t-shirts, because the cost is just outrageous. So handmade is the way to go, and showing it's handmade. Also, like you said, of Instagram, socials are becoming a really big driver. So Facebook as well, Twitter, X now, and kind of all Meta kind of feels so like Instagram are becoming a real big shower, because it shows the customer when they're browsing that it's not just John in his bedroom who's dropshipping a product from China. It shows the creativity and the process that's been made. We're even seeing now customers requesting videos of their products being made because they want to see the processes. So I think it's being open and honest with the customer. Now you can do like Etsy ads and SEO, which I think is probably what you've got to do at this stage, just because it's becoming so crowded. But forums like Facebook are just absolute gold mines. I don't know if that helps Neil shine some kind of light, but
no, very much so. And I you know, they're just that reinforcing the manufacturing process being of increased importance, I think is really good. And one example I share with you in that space is there was a wonderful company that reached out to me called the House of Hackney, which works
okay.
and they're based in central London, but their manufacturing process as well as their design process is really, really interesting. So
socials are really important. I would say Facebook as well is the place to be. You know, there's some incredible groups out there with hundreds, like I mentioned, hundreds of thousands of Etsy sellers or Etsy customers as well, and they'll share your listing or share your product within the group, if it's handmade or if you've actually made it, and it kind of gives it that badge of honor, really. And it's all, and another thing just to add, it's all about longevity. You know, a lot of people will join the platform, and if they don't see any progress in the first few weeks, they'll cancel out, which is just ridiculous because it takes so much time, and it's all about reviews and it's all about sales, and then Etsy will push your product up. But yeah, hopefully that kind of gives a bit of light.
Thanks, Neil. Andrea.
Hi, Myles.
Hiya.
One sort of observation. What was the time lag between the actual pitch in Dragon's Den and the go to air?
I wouldn't say 8 months. I was quite early in the filming, and I was midway through the series, I wanted to say. So it was about 8 months, I'm guessing.
I'm really, really shocked that you were not better prepared either by Dragon's Den or your investor for what was about to happen. And I think that gives investors and TV reality shows a really bad name. I think that was terribly unfair, and well done you for surviving it. I can't get over that. The other thing is, I think you were on the call a couple months ago asking about for help, tips on how to focus. Was that you? Was that you?
That probably was me. Probably was.
I wanted to know about Myles. How are you doing with that?
I'm doing okay. I think one of the most difficult things I found transitioning from messing around at university to having messing around at university to running a business where you kind of still messing around, kind of you've got board advisors, you've got investors, was quite the jump. And I think I work on structure, and unfortunately my life isn't structured that well, and it's hard to structure my life very well. I think I need to be quite agile, and luckily I don't have any kids or any kind of real responsibilities outside of work, so I can be agile. But I think the biggest thing I'm trying to focus on in 2024 is probably my sleep, and also being able to move my mind away from work for a brief bit. You know, that's one of my, you know, I just, in my head, ideas going around all the time, different ways to do different things. We should do this, we should do that. It's one of my biggest things I'm trying to do. And the only way I found to kind of stop thinking about work is to just go on runs. It's a bit strange. I don't know what it is. But if I go to the gym and let's say I do weights, I can go on my phone in between sets. Whereas when I'm running, I can't really go on my phone. And it's hard to think because I'm so out of breath. So I have to run every day pretty much. But yeah, really trying to focus on sleep, to be honest.
Well, I hope you have some long and deep ones in the 2020.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
So do I.
Peter.
Thanks, Ollie. Hi, Myles.
Hi,
again,
Peter.
congrats on where you've gone to. It's been really interesting sort of hearing how you sort of got through the various ups and downs. I was really interested to hear your strategy or your thought process in raising investment and actually avoiding VCs and really going for investors that I think you'd have a much more personal relationship with. Because it's something I've been looking at from an investment point of view and working with startups is, you know, this whole blitz scaling, looking at the need for investment, this sort of view that you need to raise huge amounts of money to build a successful business. And especially coming from a family background with both my parents having built successful businesses without actually raising any money at all, and raising it in the traditional way of actually, here's a product, there's a need in the market, you create revenue, you've got a sales team, and you actually grow organically. So I'd be interested to hear what's success for you? Are you going down the route where you've got initial investors to sort of get you going, and then you're just going to go and raise a massive Series A, or are you looking to just have fun and grow a business over a period? Because you're young, you've got plenty of time. What are you just going to grow a business and see what happens and have fun doing it?
100%, Peter, and what you just said is so true. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. But I think LinkedIn is dangerous, first off, and it's a rogue thought here, because you log onto LinkedIn and you see X, Y, and Z's raised 2.5 million pre-seed or whatever, and it makes it you feel like if you haven't raised investment, you're doing it wrong, or you're doing it slow. I think it's the most ridiculous thing, because I think we're constantly bombarded with someone's raised this, someone's raised that, you need to raise investment, when I truly believe there's so many companies out there that don't need to raise investment, but they want to do it because it's fast growth. And I understand moving fast as a company, and I understand the benefits for that, but really moving slow or kind of doing it without investment, if you can, is incredibly beneficial, because you learn along the way. You can kind of whittle out those issues, and and instead of 50k on a project, you're going to think, oh, is it worth 50k? Can I do it for 10? And I think I'm so glad I didn't go and raise those money when I was running my first company, because you learn different ways to tackle different problems without the cash. And now I've got that same mindset now, and I think that's one of the reasons why my investors trust me so much, because I'm so careful with how we deploy capital on different projects. Every single decision we make, and every single bit of cash or capital we use, it's like, how does this benefit the company? How will this increase revenue? And in my head, the way I work it out is, how many customers do I need to pay off this feature? And it's such a weird way of thinking about it, but
that's a good way. Isn't that the normal way of
it should be, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's not how people make decisions. And I'm sure, as you've seen, people go willy-nilly. For me, I don't like raising lots of money. I'm not a huge fan. I'm traditional in the way of, you've got the product, you've got a sales team, and you should push it out, and you should try and use the capital that you've gained from selling to put back into the product, and then that's how you grow. And in the end, it could even work out better, because you've held a high percentage of the company when you come to acquisition, or when an exit opportunity comes up. Now, with myself, I think it all depends on the climate and where we are. I would like to think we are not going to go and raise lots and lots of rounds. I would prefer not to, but if it's right for us at the time, then it's right for us at the time. I'm fairly open with my thoughts, and we take the advice of our board, our investors, and kind of the people around me, really, depending on what our competitors are doing and what we're doing, and what kind of projects we want to do. Do the projects we want to do require extra investment at this moment in time? Probably not. But hey, we'll have to see.
And what is success for you? I mean, let's say the next 5 years. Is it? And what is it? Have you got a 5-year outlook, 10-year outlook, or are you
I think personally, myself, in terms of me, if we're not including the business, like, quite a lot wouldn't have changed in 5 years. I would be 25. Success for me, I think, an acquisition would be cool, but I also think I enjoy running the business day to day. Now, the way I think in 5 years, I may be thinking I'd love to move on to another project and exit this one, and if I come up with another idea, move on to that. And I think that's the way I develop, is by, once I've got into a project to a certain state, using what I've learned from that past project, putting it into a new one, is probably the way I would work. So success for me is probably exiting giving our investors a good return, and also me chasing another project or trying another project and trying out different things along the way, really, and being as agile as possible.
Yeah,
kind of how I think.
No, I think it's a really great way of thinking. I wish more founders actually thought like that instead of sort of getting caught in this bubble of
Yeah,
going through these. This
there
whole
definitely is a bubble in terms of, you know, I speak to a lot of founders, ones that are way more experienced than me, and you know, they're what I see in them is what they define as success is being able to close around $1.5 million round. But it's like, that's not that. Yes, that's great, and that's a great achievement, really, in terms of, you know, we're in business here, we're trying to grow our businesses, but that doesn't in the end guarantee any sort of profit or exit, to be honest. It's how you use the capital.
You're still seeing a 70-80% failure rate when they close
100%,
funds, and that seems to get forgotten. So
yeah,
no, it's really refreshing to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Peter. One last question from me. You spoke about universities and becoming a founder, leaving university. Any regrets?
Of leaving university? None at all. Looking back, I think none of my parents had ever gone to university, and I think that was in their head the portrayed route of success was I was studying finance, investment, and risk management at university, though I didn't go to many lectures. Their perceived idea of success was to go to London, go to university, do the degree, and go into kind of like a corporate role. And now I look back on it, I have friends that are now graduating at some of the top universities, but they hate their subjects. You know, you've got chemistry guys or they're studying medicine or whatever, but they don't know what to do. And I think I shouldn't say that because I might not have started the business, but I wish other options were portrayed to me when I was, like degree apprenticeships when I was younger, instead of just going, university is the only way, and if you don't go to university, you're not smart. And I think I wish I had a better outlook. But yeah, no regrets on the university front. Yeah, I'm glad I left, dropped out.
Excellent. That talk's been really good, Myles, and also thank you for your kind words about startup to stand up. It's very much appreciated.
No, thank you.
Any final questions for Myles while he's with us this morning? Melissa.
Hello. Sorry, I've been listening away. Hello, Myles.
Hello,
just thinking of a slightly random thought. Do you do much speaking? Because I think some of your story was so inspiring to a younger generation. So I spent many years working in music TV land and all kinds of trying to get under the hood of this really critical part of development as you go from like age of 16 into maybe 24, 25. And it is, without sounding too kind of hackneyed, it is all about kind of where do you fit in the world and having the lack of career advice out there is pretty kind of
crazy.
Startling, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I do is I help out a charity called Ideas Foundation, which is all about trying to bring more creativity to the UK curriculum, which is kind of interesting because creativity sort of can come in so many shapes and forms, right? It sparks some real ambition in kids that perhaps don't have really great schools or really great support networks. So anyway, 100%. So my question, I suppose, is, do you do much speaking to young people? Because I think if you don't, I think you should.
Not really. I mean, I was invited back by my university and I did a speech at the university, which was strange. But yeah, not really. I just think there's such a and a lot of my friends, the people around me that I've grown up with, are in the space, or they're in just graduating, or they're just in the university side, and I can see and it's just so crazy. I can see that their parents or the people around them and the teachers have pushed for those students to go to university. And if you looked at the universities in the UK, and now I think universities are great for development in terms of, you know, you're forced to live on your own, you're forced to fend for yourself, budgeting or whatever. But, you know, especially with the rise of student finance, you know, you pay back so much more now. I mean, I think there should be a second look. If you looked at the universities now, you can go to university for anything, and I would almost guarantee there's like courses for anything. Even if your grades weren't great at A level or BTEC or whatever level 3 you did, you could go to university in some form. And I think it's such a pushed route. It gives you like an extra 3 years of breathing space, I think is what people describe it as. You know, you've got people now enrolling onto masters just for the sake of, oh, it gives me an extra year of not having to look for a job or not having to apply for grad schemes. And that's such a strange way to look at it. You know, especially when it's not free and it racks up huge amounts of debt. But yeah, I mean, degree apprenticeships, there's some great ones out there, but they're looked at, especially in the younger generation, as like, oh, he or she is not smart enough to go to university.
There's definitely a
so they're kind of forced down that 100%. And I think it's just, you know, if you probably look at degree apprenticeships compared to a lot of universities, the salary expectations are probably higher from some of the degree apprenticeships out there, and you learn a lot more on the job. If I had kids now, I would advise them to look at both aspects, but the degree apprenticeships, or just the apprenticeship in general, have such there's this hands-on experience, the increasing confidence of being able to speak to people openly and honestly. And like I said about this call, it was only once a week when I was 18 on a Wednesday, but that 1 hour or whatever it was, being able to speak and forced to speak is incredibly beneficial. And I advise all parents kind of push both options and look at options, look at them carefully.
Sound. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you very much for your questions. Well, it's been a wonderful talk this morning. You've gone close to the hour, which I thought you would. Myles, I can't thank you enough.
No worries.
You're going to get a lot of love and big ups. And
if anyone got any further questions, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there.
And we love having you part of the Startup to Stand Up community. It's great. And
thanks, Ollie.
You're welcome back anytime to do a talk. It's been really, really wonderful having you on this morning.
Cool. Great.